I want to talk about the Isle of Man TT. On the last week of May and the first week of June every year, something truly amazing happens. A tiny little island in the middle of the sea between mainland Britain and Ireland opens its borders to thousands of enthusiasts. Some have made the pilgrimage to the island every year for as long as they can remember. For others, it's the first and only time they'll get to visit, all for one reason. 13 days of some of the most intense motorsport action the world experiences. For those 2 weeks, the motorcycle racing world focuses on 37.73 miles of public roads that for the briefest of windows becomes the most intense racecourse on the planet, the Isle of Man TT. Motorbike racing is pretty much the most exciting motorsport event you can watch. High-powered, two-wheeled machines blasting around a track at speeds that just don't seem physically possible. There is a problem for some countries though. What do you do if you can't host the events? Ireland, Northern Ireland and the Isle of Man, for example, don't have any dedicated racetracks capable of hosting events like the MotoGP. They needed a solution, so on the weekends, race organisers and government officials closed different sections of the roads, and groups of the most talented motorcycle riders on the planet push the absolute limits of what's possible on two wheels. The most famous of these road races is the Isle of Man TT. Founded in 1907, the TT, or the Tourist Trophy, is contested on public roads. 37.73 miles per lap, 3 to 6 laps on a range of bikes from 600cc sports bikes to sidecars to 1000cc superbikes. With speeds and places hitting over 210 miles per hour, the racers battle themselves and the circuit to complete their laps in the fastest time possible. The first week of the TT is for practice and qualifying. The second week is for the races, 10 races total. The competitors are lined up in their starting order and are released from the start line in 10-second intervals. From long straights to complex hairpins, sweeping bends to bridges providing spectators views of superbikes flying through the air, each racer competes against the clock, the course and themselves to wring every millisecond possible from their machines. Racers are measured on their time completing the race and, rather uniquely, on the average speed around the course, giving competitors multiple goals to strive to in every lap they complete. Straight line speed is not the be-all and end-all at the TT. You've got to be fast everywhere. In 2023, the all-time lap record was set by road racing legend and 13-time race winner Peter Hickman on his BMW M1000RR during the Superstock race, completing a record-breaking lap time of 16 minutes and 36.144 seconds. Over the 37.73 miles of the course, he averaged 136.358 miles per hour, with a top speed recorded of over 210. For many people, myself included, the TT represents what motorcycling is all about. A rider, a bike, a road, and a huge amount of skill and bravery. The TT has come a long way since its humble beginnings. Originally ran over a much shorter course, the 15-mile St John's circuit, the 10 laps were run by competitors looking for a chance to test themselves and their machines away from the restrictions and bans imposed by the British government on racing. These daredevils ran the most powerful machines they could build in one of two classes, single-cylinder and twin-cylinder. 27 brave men lined their machines up and set off in pairs in a time trial format. Of the 27 starting that first year, only 12 completed the race, with many having to retire their 3.5 to 5 brake horsepower machines due to mechanical failures, punctures and crashes. One bike even caught fire during the compulsory 10-minute refreshment stop. The winner of the single-cylinder class, Charles R. Collier, hit the dizzying average speed of 38.21 miles per hour, completing the 57-mile race in 4 hours, 8 minutes and 8 seconds. The two-cylinder class was won by Rem Fowler, despite him suffering a 60-mile-an-hour crash, a puncture, having to replace his drive belt multiple times and swap out his spark plugs. He managed to win with an average speed of 36.21 miles per hour and completed the race in 4 hours, 21 minutes and 52 seconds. By the next year, the top competitors had pushed the average speed of the single-cylinder machines to 40.40 miles per hour, and a total time to complete the race of 3 hours, 54 minutes and 50 seconds. And the twin-cylinder winner clocked a 38.57 mile per hour average and a finish time of 4 hours, 5 minutes and 58 seconds. This would be a trend seen year on year. Lap times would fall and average speeds would increase as technology improved until the current era. In 1911, organisers moved to the much longer Snaefell mountain course, with riders now completing 5 laps instead of 10, a total of 188 miles, and yet the race times still tumbled down year on year. The current races are generally run between 3 and 6 laps depending on course and weather conditions, race class and incidents restricting race time. This is one of the most unique aspects of the TT. It's not a dedicated race course. For the remaining 50 weeks of the year, the Snaefell Mountain course is just open public roads, with islanders using the route as part of their daily commute. This means that unlike a dedicated racetrack, there are potholes, curbs, debris and wildlife all waiting to ruin your lap if you even go slightly wrong. In addition to this, the average MotoGP lap is a hair under 2.8 miles and has about 14 corners per lap. The TT is 37.73 miles per lap and has over 200 corners to navigate, meaning this one race has around the same number of corners to memorise as all 17 MotoGP courses combined. The top TT riders estimate it will take a new racer at least 3 years to memorise the full course. Where the first racers took over 4 hours to complete 50 miles on their bikes, 2023's senior TT race saw record-breaking average speeds of over 130 miles an hour from the top 3 riders, and saw Peter Hickman pick up his 4th win of the week, completing his 6 laps, that's 226.38 miles, in a staggering 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 29.488 seconds, clocking an average speed of 132.526 miles per hour. The stats about the modern racing bikes that are shipped to the island each year are as mind-blowing as the race itself. No matter the class the bikes are in, the riders will push them to the absolute limit, to the extent that over a single 37-mile lap of the TT course, the rear wheel will travel nearly a full mile further than the front, as the bike slides, spins, wheelies and jumps around the mountain circuit. There are currently 5 bike classes which individually have their own rules and regulations. Probably the most overlooked of these are the sidecar bikes, running a 600cc 4-cylinder, a 675cc 3-cylinder, or a 900cc parallel twin engine. These odd-looking machines propel 2 riders to speeds in excess of over 150 miles an hour. The driver leans over the front of the bike, operating the accelerator and brakes. The passenger uses the sidecar platform to redistribute the weight across 3 wheels to help get the bike around the corners of the course. It takes a dedicated partnership to set lap records, all of which are currently held by the team of Ben and Tom Burchell. The brothers from Nottinghamshire are the first sidecar team to average above 120 mile an hour on a lap of the TT, clocking a 120.357 mile an hour lap in 2023. Next up in the bike classes are the super sport bikes, running 600cc 4-cylinder or 675cc 3-cylinder engines with custom brakes, suspension and bodywork. These extensively and heavily modified bikes are putting out up to 130 brake horsepower and are amongst the most exciting to watch thanks to the speeds the riders have to maintain in all areas of the course, be they straights or corners, in order to stay in the running for a podium finish. This leads to some of the most skilled riding moments of the week. Michael Dunlop holds the current fastest lap, averaging 130.403 miles an hour in 2023. Another overlooked class is the Super Twins. Physically the smallest bikes on the grid, the 650cc twin-cylinder engines pack a big punch, all things considered. The bikes themselves are little more than road bikes with relatively rare aftermarket parts bolted on. Because of this and the complexities of twin-cylinder racing engines, these are amongst the most expensive bikes to run. Again, Michael Dunlop holds the record, this time in 2018 with an average lap time of 120.357 miles per hour. The closest thing to riding a factory bike is the Superstock class, with engine, frame and electronics remaining as standard for safety reasons. The only modifications seen on these bikes are the suspension, brakes and exhaust systems. Because of this, the 1000cc Superstock class is actually the easiest way for smaller teams to stay competitive, as the bikes are almost the same as what you can buy in the showroom at your local dealership. That said, the riders are still the best in the world, meaning these monsters break the 200-mile-an-hour barrier regularly. Peter Hickman holds the all-out record lap of the mountain course on a super stock BMW M1000RR, reaching the blistering average speed of 136.358 mile an hour. But the big bikes that get the most attention are the superbikes. This class are the bikes running both the superbike class and the final and arguably the most important race of the week, the Senior TT. The superbikes are the same 1000cc machines as the superstock bikes, but with more modifications. Engines, gearboxes, fuel systems, frame and chassis modifications are all on the table in the superbike class. Carbon fibre is used for many parts on these bikes to make them as light as possible, with the main rules governing the class being the bikes must be kept within the same physical profile as their showroom counterparts. These colossal machines push over 200 brake horsepower to the rear wheel and regularly blast past 210 miles an hour. Peter Hickman again holds the lap records for both the Superbike and Senior TT laps. His BMW M1000RR put in an impressive 135.445 miles per hour average lap time in the 2023 Superbike race, and his BMW S1000RR ran an almost identical 135.452 miles per hour average in the 2018 race, demonstrating not only the capability of the BMW machines but the consistency of the man riding them. The closeness of these speeds shows just how big a difference the weather and road conditions can make in the TT races, with a damp track knocking precious seconds and miles per hour off even the most skilled riders' lap times. But even if the weather is less than ideal, the fans will turn out in their thousands. The event is a huge source of income for the island, which for the remaining 50 weeks of the year is just a quiet tax haven. 43,000 people made the journey in 2023, generating £36.1 million for the local economy. Many businesses operate just for the TT fortnight, with most of the island's tourism income reliant on the races and the mountain course. Because of this, it's very rare for the TT not to go ahead. In fact, the only things that have managed to stop the TT so far were World War I, World War II, and the global COVID pandemic. Visitors flock from all over the globe, travelling by air, land and sea to experience the wonders of the race. But the TT also has a dark side. All motorsport is inherently dangerous, but with the island's course being undertaken on public roads, there's very little in the way of rider safety compared to equivalent races on tracks such as in MotoGP. It's well known that speed doesn't kill people, it's suddenly stopping that gets you. And the TT course is made almost entirely out of things that will make you stop very quickly. Where dedicated tracks have large runoff areas for racers to slowly decelerate in relative terms, the mountain course has a road, a pavement, and if you're very lucky, a mattress or hay bale tied or duct taped to a wall. Racetracks have huge runoffs and gravel traps to ensure that racers have plenty of slowdown space should they crash, ensuring they come to a stop gradually in order to minimise rider injuries. So despite the huge crashes that occur in MotoGP, deaths are relatively rare, with most of the deaths occurring many decades ago. By comparison, the TT occasionally has a field to flip into as long as you miss the wall between the road and the grass. Crashes and serious injuries are very common during the TT, and when TT riders crash, they crash in a big way. The late Dr. John Hines, the man known as the Flying Doctor due to him responding to race accidents on his own superbikes at speeds at over 180 miles an hour, said of racer Guy Martin following his major crash in the 2010 TT, "Guy was fine, he was grand, a couple of fractured vertebrae, pneumothorax, that's fine for a racer." Showing not only how brave the racers are, but how resilient they are too, Guy was back at the TT the next year. That same year saw one of the most infamous crashes in TT history, as Connor Cummings had a low-side crash at a section of the track called the Veranda at about 150 mile an hour, sending him catapulting off a dry stone wall and into a field. He sustained a horrific list of injuries, including a badly broken left arm, 2 bone fractures in his back, a dislocated knee and ligament damage, bruising to his lungs, and a hairline fracture to his pelvis. He required spinal fusion surgery and a plethora of plates and screws to stabilise his arms. Once again, showing just how tough these racers are, he placed 6th in the 2011 600cc Supersport race. But that's the outcomes for the lucky ones. 269 riders have died competing in the TT and the Manx Grand Prix, which also uses the mountain course. Since the 1937 race season, there's only been 1 year with no fatalities at the TT or Grand Prix, which was 1982. There are nearly no sections of the course that have no deaths recorded on them. Yet every year, riders set off in 10-second intervals, blasting down the grandstand and down Bray Hill, throttles pinned open, banging and snarling their way through the gears of the bike to the amazement of thousands in attendance and millions watching on television. So why do they do it? It's certainly not for the prize money. There's basically none compared to most modern sports. The winner of the coveted Senior TT, the final and most prestigious race of the TT fortnight, is only £25,000. One competitor, Mike Booth, estimated that with pre-race qualifying, event fees, medicals, transport, buying the bike to ride, leathers and helmets, ferry fees and consumables like tyres, brake pads, oils and fuel, his 48 laps of qualifying and racing at the course in 2018 cost just under 26 grand, and that's without factoring in paying his team on top of that. The top flight teams and competitors are forking out upwards of £50,000 just on the cost of a bike. And with some racers having up to 6 bikes at the event for the various classes or in case of breakdowns or crashes, the prize pot really doesn't reflect the risk involved physically or financially. It's a given that even with perfect races, racing teams and privateers compete at the TT at a significant financial loss. So why compete? Because it's the TT. To motorcycle racing fans, bike manufacturers and racers, the TT is the holy grail of races. Fans save their whole lives just to go and watch the races from hedgerows and private gardens around the course, and when the races aren't going on, the public ride the course themselves. In recent years, the Isle of Man government have been making the course a one-way road during the TT fortnight due to the number of accidents when the roads were used normally for everyday travel. That's how big of a deal it is. They change the road priorities for 2 weeks of the year just for the event. The TT is a mecca to bikers, and a racer to be able to put on their CV that they competed at the event, let alone placed in the top 20, makes them an elite level racer. Those with multiple podium races and wins under the belts are treated like royalty in racing circles. Joey Dunlop, Michael Dunlop and John McGuinness hold the top 3 most wins on the island, with Joey and Michael being members of the Dunlop racing dynasty made up of Joey and his brother Robert, and Robert's 2 sons William and Michael. Sadly, even a dynasty is not safe from racing tragedy, as Michael is the only surviving member of the family, all the rest having their lives claimed in crashes during road races around the world. Yet Michael still competes, holding many of the course's records, because that's the draw of the TT. It's more than just a race. It's more than burnt rubber, broken bones, roaring exhaust, racing fuel, and displays of unrivaled courage and skill. It's more than the grief of a loss of a friend or a family member. The TT is the last bastion of danger and choice. No one's forced to ride in a race, they do it because they're called to the challenge. In a world trying to minimise personal risk and make every action as safe as possible, the TT stands defiant. The danger is the draw. As the legendary Joey Dunlop said of road racing, there's a grey blur and a green blur. I try to stay on the grey one, and I think that perfectly encapsulates the biker mentality. Motorbikes are dangerous by their very nature, and events like the TT give people the opportunity to risk it all to see how good they really are. For those 13 days, nothing else matters. For those 13 days, the rest of the world does not exist. For those 13 days, the mortgage doesn't matter, your boss doesn't matter, your phone bill doesn't matter. For those 13 days, the only thing that matters is 37.73 miles of freedom.